So think about this. Choosing who's next in charge. That used to be a pretty quiet back-office HR process, right? Well, not anymore. Today, it's high-stakes front-page drama. And as we're about to see, getting it wrong, it can literally be the difference between a company that thrives and one that just fails spectacularly.
You might recognize this piece of ruthless advice from HBO's Succession. And yeah, while it's fiction, it perfectly frames a very, very real challenge we all face. Leadership transition isn't just some one-time event. No, it's a perpetual motion machine.
Okay, let's pivot from fiction to a fact that is just staggering. $1 trillion. That's a 1 with 12 zeros after it. According to research from the Center for Creative Leadership, that's the annual cost, we're talking lost market value, of poorly managed leadership transitions. This isn't just drama, folks. It's a massive economic crisis.
So, how in the world do we end up with a $1 trillion problem on our hands? Well, in this first section, we're going to unpack the sheer scale of the succession crisis. It's a problem that's been brewing for decades, and as the numbers show, it's finally kinda boiling over.
And a huge reason behind that $1 trillion figure? Get this. A shocking 70% of organizations today are operating without any formal succession plan. None. They're trying to navigate these huge new challenges of tomorrow using yesterday's ad hoc, let's just hope for the best approach.
And you want to see the real-world consequences of that lack of planning? Just look at this. Of the original Fortune 500 companies from way back in 1955, only 52 are still around today. Now, this isn't just about changing markets. It's about a fundamental failure to adapt leadership and plan for what's next.
What's really fascinating is that this isn't just a boardroom issue anymore. It has become a full-blown cultural phenomenon. On the left, you see the trend line for TV shows about succession. It's climbing steadily. And on the right, that's the trend for academic papers on the topic. It's absolutely skyrocketing. Our stories and our science are pointing to the exact same thing. Succession matters, now more than ever.
So, what does all of this tell us? It's simple, really. The world has changed way too much for the old way of thinking. You've got forces like AI, massive demographic shifts, geopolitical tension. The traditional, dusty old playbook for leadership transitions? Yeah, it's officially closed. All right, so if the old playbook is closed, what replaces it? This is the interesting part. The research suggests it's not another process or some new checklist. It's a fundamental shift in perspective. And this right here is the core idea from the Center for Creative Leadership. See, true succession readiness isn't an HR function. It's what they call a succession-centric mindset. And it forms right at the intersection of these three powerful narratives: the cultural stories we tell ourselves, the scientific insights we gather, and the real-world transformations that are happening in every single industry.
So what does this actually look like day to day? Well, a succession-centric mindset sees leadership transition not as a problem you have to solve, but as a core strategic imperative. It's the lens that shapes everything an organization does, how it thinks, how it operates, and how it evolves.
Okay, so a mindset sounds great, but how do you make it real? How do you actually do it? That brings us to something called the ICG framework, which is basically a practical blueprint designed to help leaders adopt this new way of thinking.
As the report's authors put it, the entire future of an organization flows from these three interconnected mindsets. That's a really powerful way to reframe the challenge, isn't it? The future follows.
So let's break this down, because this framework is the antidote to that 70% problem we talked about earlier. First up is immediacy. That's having the agility to respond to leadership gaps right now before they become crises. Second is continuity, making sure the organization keeps humming along and that vital knowledge isn't lost during a transition. And finally, my favorite, generativity. This is where you look beyond just replacing a role to actively building the kind of leadership you'll need for a radically different future.
Now, the real key here is how these mindsets build on each other. You see, you start with the immediate need, you build for continuity, and all of that fuels generativity, which creates a leadership system that doesn't just survive the future, but actually goes out and shapes it.
All right, now let's connect this framework to the real world. How does adopting this ICG mindset actually change things for leaders and for their organizations? Let's make it real.
Well, it matters because it forces you to find those leadership gaps before they become catastrophic failures. It helps you shape your culture with powerful stories about what leadership looks like. And, so crucially, it moves the focus from just who is next to how and when that transition will happen. At the end of the day, it reminds us that a brilliant idea is pretty much worthless if you can't execute. And that brings us to the final, and maybe the most crucial shift in thinking. This is an idea that really elevates the entire conversation beyond just processes and pipelines.
You know, for decades, we've been laser-focused on knowledge transfer, giving new leaders the playbooks, the models, the best practices. And this stuff is important. It prepares them for what should happen in a perfect world. But the new frontier, the real game changer, is wisdom transfer. This is about passing on lived experience, through mentorship, through storytelling, through narrative. This is what prepares leaders for what actually happens in those messy moments of uncertainty and crisis. Ultimately, this is what it all comes down to. The most resilient, the most future-proof organizations, they won't just have the best playbooks. They will be the ones that have mastered the art of transferring lived wisdom from one generation of leaders to the next.
And that leaves us with one final provocative question to think about. Think about your own organization, your own team, even your own leadership journey. Are you simply transferring knowledge, or are you truly cultivating and passing on wisdom? The answer to that question could very well define your future.